turns when I pray, then Satan turns back on me. This is how the Americans are. They're after their own interests, and through these weak people, they push their interests. Slogans of death to America. Of course, today, Americans are highly agitated. Israelis are more agitated and concerned regarding Egypt. They're after a cure, after a remedy, but they will never find one. They are trying to deceive the people. They speak of supporting Egyptian people. Americans have also told Mubارek he needs to go as soon as possible. Well, it depends how the Egyptian people act and how they decide. Addressing our Arab brothers, I have written something.
In the name of God the Merciful, may peace be upon the sons of our Islamic Ummah everywhere. May peace be upon the Islamic arena. Now, of course, the Islamic arena is witnessing a great period, a very, very important turning point, a fatal period which could change the equation in the region, change the equation in favor of Islam and in favor of the people. This event could bring back dignity and honor to the Arab people and the Islamic people. And this could also take away the dust of tens of years of what the West did and what America did to these people, to these great people, these honorable people, the oppression and the humiliation which America did to these people. This event, this miraculous event, began by the Tunisian people, and it reached its highest point with the Egyptian people, the great Egyptian people. People held their breath. The people in the West held their breath. The people in the Islamic world held their breath as well, but for different reasons. And they are monitoring very closely what will happen in the great land of Egypt, this great country of the last century, the country of Muhammad Abdu and Seyyed Jamal, the Egypt of Zaghlul, the Egypt of Ahmad Shawqi, the Egypt of Abd al-Nasir and Sheikh Hassan al-Banna, the Egypt of 1967 and 1973 as well, 1967 and 1973. They are watching how high the flag of Egypt will be raised. Although this flag, if this flag is not raised, this will lead to a very difficult period. And if this flag, however, is raised high, it will reach the high skies, and this will be the beginning of a great period. The Tunisian people were able to kick out the Americanized president, Zayn al-Abidin bin Ali, he who was against religion. But it is wrong to think that this is the result which we want. The regime of betrayal, the spying regime, is not overthrown when its remnants or its symbols go out of the country, if the symbols of the same regime take their place. So it's not about a certain person leaving, because symbols of his regime could simply take his place. The Islamic Revolution of Iran, of course, those who are against this Islamic Revolution strive time and again to put us in a trap. However, the vigilance of the people and the vigilance of its leader realized the plans of the enemies, and hence we prevented these plans from achieving their aims. Now, regarding Egypt, Egypt is a unique example because Egypt in the Arab world is unique from any other country. Egypt is the first country in the Islamic world which got to know the Arab culture, and it is also the first country which realized the danger of the other cultures and confronted this danger. Egypt is the first Arab country which established an independent state after World War II. And Egypt defended its national interests in securing the Suez Canal, and Egypt is the first country which stood with all of its energy, which stood side by side with the Palestinians. And Egypt became known in the Islamic world as the place where the Palestinians resort to when they are in need. Mr. Jamal was not an Egyptian. However, he only saw that the Egyptian Muslim people were the ones who really understood his concern. He found only Egyptians understood his concern. The Egyptian people have proven themselves at the times of political confrontation and religious struggle, and the Egyptians have made their stances throughout history. Muhammad Abdu and his students, and Saad Zaghloul and his students, these people were not normal people. They were very, very high-ranking intellectuals, courageous people, people of vigilance. And Egypt should be proud of them and people who are like them. Egypt, with this cultural and religious depth and with this political depth, Egypt reached a very, very important stage, reached a leadership role in the Arab world. The biggest crime committed by the ruling party in Egypt was that it took this country down. It took it down from this very, very high level to a low level, to a tool in the hands of America, in America's political game in the region. This earthquake, which we see today by the Egyptian people, this is the appropriate response to the great betrayal committed by the dictator against his people. The arena now is full of a revolution, is full of the awakening of the Egyptian people, and the Egyptians are expressing their opinion, their stance in this perspective. Anyone who knows Egypt well will understand that Egypt today is defending its dignity and defending its honor. Egypt has been subject to a lot of betrayal, and people at this high level of dignity, they have been subject to a lot of harm from the enemies. The stance of Egypt towards the Palestinian cause is an example, sets an example of the position of Egypt. Palestine, for tens of years, Palestine has become the most important issue in the region, and the issues of this region are related to one another, are tied to one another, and hence no country and no people can believe that their destiny is not related to the Palestinian cause. And there are two sides to the equation. Either we support Palestine and its legitimate struggle, its struggle for justice, or to stand on the other side. The people of the region have shown their stance ever since the beginning. the beginning of this situation, of this plight. Whenever any ruling regime goes towards supporting the Palestinian cause, they get the support of their people and of the Arab people. Any regime supporting Palestinians get the support of its people. And Egypt has experience in this in the 1960s and the beginning of the 1970s. However, when the Egyptians stood on the other side, the people then take a stance against them. Egypt, of course, has shown the difference between the people and the regime after the humiliating agreement in Camp David. The Egyptian people did all they could to help the Palestinians in 1967 and in 1973. However, after that, the Egyptians, with their own two eyes, saw that their leaders quickly ran towards spying and working for America, to the extent whereby Egypt became an ally, a loyal ally for the Zionist regime. America's control on Egyptians' leaders changed and took away all the efforts which were made by the Egyptian people to support Palestine. They wiped these efforts away, and the Egyptian regime hence became an enemy for the Palestinians and the biggest protector of the Zionist aggressors. At the same time, Syria, which was a partner in Egypt, a partner for Egypt in 1967 and 1973, Syria preserved its independent stances and held on to its independent stances despite the American pressures which were applied against this country, against Syria. And the Egyptian regime, this spying regime, saw for the first time, its people actually, the Egyptian people saw for the first time that this regime, the Egyptian regime, during the war on Gaza, stood side by side with the Israeli front. And the Egyptians were never hesitant to provide assistance to the Zionists, and they even did all they could. They pursued and they exerted their efforts to support the Zionist front. The history will not forget that Hosni Mubارک, he himself is the one who stood strongly side by side with the Israelis and the Americans in Israel's war against Gaza. Women were killed, men were killed, children were killed in that war. For 22 days of shelling, the people were killed. And before that and after that, the siege continued. The siege was on Gaza. The siege was imposed on Gaza. Look at the pains which the Egyptians witnessed, the Egyptian people witnessed, the pains they felt during this period. The television screens showed us the feelings of the Egyptians when they were crying because of their incapability, because they were prevented from going and helping and providing assistance to their Palestinian brothers. It reached a high extent whereby these people, the Egyptian people, can no longer put up with this situation. And what we are witnessing now in Cairo and what we are witnessing in the other Egyptian cities is an explosion of this sacred anger, an explosion of these piled up problems, these piled up feelings of the freedom-loving Egyptian men and women. The feelings of the Egyptians over the past years have now blown up because of this spying regime, this anti-Islamic Egyptian regime. The awakening of the Islamic Egyptian people is an Islamic movement, an Islamic liberation movement. And I, in the name of the Iranian people and in the name of the Iranian government, I salute the Egyptian people and I salute the Tunisian people. And I call on God that He help you and bring about victory for you. I feel proud. I feel proud for your awakening, for what is happening now. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, to the Egyptian brothers and sisters, to the Tunisian brothers and sisters, I say there is no doubt that the awakening of the people is related to your geographic situation, the political situation and the cultural situation of these countries. And we cannot expect that in Egypt or in Tunisia or in any other country, we cannot expect that the same thing will happen as what happened here in Iran. We cannot expect that these countries will witness what Iran witnessed 30 years ago. However, there are also certain commonalities, certain common points. The experience of each people can benefit other people. The experience we had here could benefit you, and we find it is beneficial that we tell you about certain experience we here have. First of all, the awakening of the people is actually a war between two wills, the will of the people and the will of the enemies of the people. And the side which is more determined and which